All I ever wanted was to be small. I was 5'7" at 108 pounds with saddle and silks and just basically eating air. Every jockey wants to ride and wants to win the Kentucky Derby, the Triple Crown, and I was no different. With that want comes sacrifice, fearlessness, and hard work. Racing regulations say if you can't make the weight, you can't race. If I couldn't race, I couldn't live. I knew what I wanted early on. I had my direction. I was clear. The only thing that stood in my way was God. This is my story.
Well, here we are once again. Welcome to Mia's world. Welcome to my world. Welcome to the world at large and the smaller world of Mia's world and of Robert Montano's world. Welcome to Robert Montano, my guest today, who's starring in an off Broadway production of Small at 59 East 59th Street. He's an amazing guy. The more you read about him, the more you wonder how does he do everything. And such a passionate soul, Robert Montano. Thank you so much for joining Mia's world.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm
You
glad
know,
to get that privilege.
I just think that hearing that intro and even the bugle playing the introduction to the horse race, I could just see the passion on your face of what horse racing means and meant to you all these years, and the inspiration for your play Small, which we're going to talk about. But it's pretty emotional.
Yeah, it is. That's the actual sound music, you would call it, is called the call to the post. So every
Ah,
time I hear ba 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 da ba ba da ba,
yes.
that's the call to the post. And yeah, I prick up my ears and yeah, I have such great memories about my time at the racetrack and hearing that piece, it just makes me proud to be a part of the sport of kings.
Yeah.
Even though I'm not, directly connected to it, writing this play allows me to reconnect and pay homage, to the sport of kings and to all the jockeys in the world who I call the true matadors of the sport of kings.
Oh my gosh, what an honor for them and for you. So we'll be talking momentarily much more to Robert Montano about his career as a jockey, as an actor, his role in writing and producing and acting in Small. But first, we have a couple of fun things that we do at Mia's World. We have a little bit of trivia of the day, today being August 7th. So a few birthdays today. In 317 AD, Constantius, the Roman emperor, son of Constantine the Great. In 1875, Mata Hari, born on August 7th, World War I double agent, spy, and exotic dancer. 1884, August 7th, Billie Burke, actress, stage, silent, and sound film. Remember her from Wizard of Oz, Glinda the Good Witch. In 1942, August 7th, Garrison Keillor, famous for his radio show Prairie Home Companion. 1976, August 7th, Charlize Theron. And 1903, Louis Leakey, the British archaeologist. We cover a lot of careers here. Today in history, 1774, English chemist Joseph Priestley discovers oxygen by isolating it in its gaseous state. In 1782, George Washington got the Purple Heart Medal as commander of the Continental Army, hence today's holiday being Purple Heart Day. In 1820, August 7th, the first potatoes were planted in Hawaii. And in 1934, the U.S. Court of Appeals upheld the lower court ruling, striking down the government's attempt to ban controversial James Joyce novel Ulysses. And today's holidays, it's National Lighthouse Day. I do love my lighthouses. Always wanted to live in a lighthouse. Purple Heart Day, it's Professional Speakers Day, it's National Sea Serpent Day, and it's National Raspberries and Cream Day. And now we wrap up. We do a fun thing at Mia's World. I always, every week, wrap up the news in rhyme. So here we go. We turn the gloom into bloom. Let's try to understand what's up with the Biden brand. Did Hunter do biz with his dad? Gee whiz, Joe's on the beach getting suntanned. Were all these meetings planned? Let's hear it from Joe firsthand. There's so much that's murky. The comments are quirky. Is the DOJ on quicksand? We need some comic relief to help the commander in chief. A humorous touch could add so much to the anger and the grief. Don't fret and do not frown. New York City is cracking down. Plastic cutlery no more. Restaurant fines for sure. Forks, knives, spoons, a triple crown. Was it whiskey or iced tea that a fan threw at Cardi B? What happened then was indeed not zen. She threw a mic impulsively. But performers must beware. Perhaps they should say a prayer. Far from static, fans are erratic. This isn't truth or dare. Barbenheimer's still a thing. Like with Ken, it's not just a fling. But I'd like to see it called Oppenbee. It has a certain ring. It's National Speakers Day, so chat and gab away. Spread, teach, inspire, be a town crier. Now where is my Chardonnay? And that's the rhyming wrap up of the week. Glad I could make you smile.
That's awesome.
Thank you so
That
much,
was awesome.
Robert. Thank you. I tried to get the triple crown in there just for you.
Yeah, I caught that. I didn't
I
catch
know. I know.
Very clever, all of it.
Thank you so much. So, well, you as a writer, that's a great, great compliment. So, Robert Montano is here, and you have done it all, and you're still doing more. You're in the current production of your own show, your own play called Small. But back to your background, returning to going back in time, I guess I should say, you have done so much TV, Broadway, film. You started out as a jockey, you became a dancer, you became an actor. Just before graduating, I guess, from Adelphi, you won a role in Cats. You've partnered with great choreographers and directors from Harold Prince to Rob Marshall, Jerome Robbins. You partnered with Gita Rivera in Kiss of the Spider Woman, with Peter Allen and Legs Diamond. You were in On the Town, one of my favorite shows of all time. You were with Kim Cattrall, Sex and the City. You've been in all that jazz number on the slithering around with Catherine Zeta-Jones in Chicago. You have done so much, and I don't know where you get the energy, but let's go back in time, because I have an affinity for you because we were both born in Bayside, Queens, so already I love that.
That's awesome.
And I agree. I was drawn to Belmont Park. Breakfast in Belmont was like my thing. But what was it that drew you immediately to that racetrack? Was it the smell of the racetrack? Was it that you went with your mother? Was it just an impulsive attraction? What was it that drew you to the horses?
Well, you got it right on the nose. You know, I did go with my mother, but and it's in the play, so you'll see it on Saturday. So I don't want to give away too much, but yeah, my mother had made the mistake of bringing me to the track. And when I saw these jockeys, because they were so small, and because I was exceptionally small for my age at that time, that I was bullied, quite a bit. And when I got to see these powerful little men get on these massive, animals of 1,200 pounds and garner the respect from the audience, the people watching them as they mount these horses. I mean, because you're putting your life on the line, and yes, they're betting their money on you, but they also understand that, that these animals can kill you in a second. And my hero, Robert Pineda, unfortunately, he fell to that, and his brother did too. So it's a tough sport in that sense, but there's a lot of great things about, being raised on the racetrack. And when my mother did not want me on the racetrack. She knew how dangerous it really was, but I was delivering newspapers back then for the Long Island Press.
I remember that. Long Island.
Yeah. And you have a bag on the bicycle, and it's full, and you're just like trying to steer and make sure it doesn't tip over. But
It's almost like you were riding even then.
yeah. Well, I used to ride my bicycle with a whip and a branch, pretending.
Really?
Yeah, and I would ride that bicycle like it was a horse, and
My gosh.
yeah.
You were
But
destined.
what was that?
You were destined.
I was, yeah. I just, but
You were
I was not destined to be small, so and the
struggle.
most inopportune time is when I'm a jockey, and my growth spurt was just.
You were a growing teenager, and you're trying to be jockeys, maintain the weight that they demand,
Yeah, yeah,
and you're growing. That's a natural phenomenon of physical growth. So,
yeah. People have the misunderstanding that there is a height requirement, but there is none as a
ah,
jockey.
it's just
Uh,
weight.
it's weight, but because I'm big boned, and as I was growing, I mean, you're filling out your skeleton, and I mean, there's a jockey right now. He's his name is Trevor McCarthy. I love this guy, and he's a great rider. He's 5'10",
Wow.
and he's got very, very
Small.
small, thin bones, he's able to make that weight, but not without a struggle. I mean, a lot of jockeys do struggle, with maintaining their weight. Um, so anyway, it
So were you
it
discouraged? I mean, as this was happening, were you discouraged or were you encouraged because now you weren't being bullied if you're now being a jockey, being small is good, but you're still conflicted with the growing and weight gain.
Yeah, I mean, but when I joined the racetrack, it was just after Secretariat winning the Belmont Stakes. It
Wow.
was that summer,
Oh,
and it was like maybe a month,
did you
after
watch
I
that race? Did you watch Secretariat?
I did watch the race. I watched the race because my uncle Julie, God rest his soul, he used to put me on his lap, and he had no teeth, and he had this crazy laugh, and he said, "Bobby, go here, go here." you know, I
Oh,
watch the Belmont Stakes on his lap. I'm watching Secretariat. The machine just tearing away 31 lengths. Which is unheard of. And uh, I was smitten by that, and because when I was delivering newspapers, one of my customers happened to work on the racetrack, so I begged them to take me to the track, and they did. And because we were on summer break from school, I'd sneak out and, literally out of my window, jump off the rooftop and go to this customer and the Duncans, and to the track. And until my mother and father, like, where are you going? You can't just do that. So I begged them to let me work at the track during the summer, and then
that was it.
yeah, yeah. And my mother was selling jewelry to this jockey, Robert A. Pineda. And when she brought me to the racetrack and I saw him, I was like, who is that?
What was it?
Because
What was it about him specifically? Was it his demeanor, his technical skills, his personality?
it was his demeanor. I mean, all the other jockeys came out in a bunch, and he came out by himself. And because I was a big Bruce Lee fan, he reminded me of Bruce Lee, and he just had this way about him, like a matador. And I just thought, like, who is that guy? And he won the race, and in the winner's circle, he just winked at me, and I was like,
That's it.
that's it, you know. And he took me under his wing against my mother's will, and he said to her, clearly, this is what he wants to do. So if he's going to be schooled by anyone, I can at least protect him and show him the best way to ride. And he did, and he did. Was,
That's just incredible. I guess it's not self-fulfilling prophecy. It's like you didn't will it to happen, but it was sort of meant to happen. I mean, sometimes that does happen in life where you connect with somebody and they do acknowledge you, recognize you, and there's that sort of synchronicity or symbiosis or whatever the word is. And
Yeah,
it
yeah.
happened.
I say it in the play too that I believe in spirits, and angels. It's just like he was my angel. He was sent to me to take care of me and see me through it. Um, and he was also, he was encouraging, but not to the point where, uh, that he put me in harm's way. He was always very watchful of me, and he did right by me. And and when he had passed away, um, his son Robert Jr. Was only 3 years old, and I used to hold him in my arms, and his wife Maxine, had just had their second child,
Yeah.
Alvaro, and he was just born when Robert had died. And after he died, I could not find them. The mother had taken the two boys to some undisclosed location,
Wow.
and so for like, I don't know, 25 years of trying to find them, I never gave up. But I was doing a project uh, with John C. Riley in Boston. And just when I came back to my apartment, I put my luggage down and I get a phone call. And this is back in 2004. And I hear, hello, sir, I'm looking for Mr. Robert Montano, sir. And I was like, sir, you know. I said, yeah, who's calling? He said, this is Robert Pineda Jr., sir.
Oh my God.
And I was like, what?
Did your heart stop?
Oh, I saw it, And I
Yeah.
and I and I said, I've been looking for you for over 25
My
years. I
God.
said, my mother told me that you were the closest to my father, you know. So I never really got to know my father. And I know this might sound crazy to you, sir, but I've been hearing all the stories. I've been calling from one theater to the next theater on Broadway, and I just been missing you, you
Wow.
know. And my mother said you were the closest, so I need to speak to you. And he said, this might sound crazy to you, sir, but you're my hero. And I said, you don't understand. Your father was my hero. And he said, and that's why I need to speak to you. I want to hear all about him. So I
Oh
said, where
my
are you?
gosh.
So then I met him, 2 days later in Maryland, and he picks me up. And it happened to be on a Valentine's Day. And
Oh.
I knew exactly who he was. We hugged, we cried. And I said, your mother doesn't know I'm here, right? And he said, no. And I said, good. Take me to a florist. And I got a dozen roses. I knocked on the door. He hid. And I said, hi, this is you, ma'am. And she said, yeah, I did not order any flowers. And she said, no, 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 they are for you. And then she looked at me hard and she said, Bobby
Oh my God.
Montano? That was it.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So we have this reconnection, after so many.
Oh, it's so beautiful. What a story. And on
Yeah.
Valentine's Day yet.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I know.
So incredible. Well, so at what point did you make the transition to become a dancer and stop the jockeying? That
Well, you know, I guess you could say dance was always a part of my life because my mother would always yell for me up the stairs to come down and watch, Chito Rivera or Peter Gennaro on
oh
the
yes,
television show,
yes, yeah.
and I would watch, glued, and I was glued to all these, other TV shows like, Soul Train,
Yeah.
and I'll watch that show, that style, man. I just love Soul Train, and so I always had it in me, and I always yell out to my mom on Saturday morning while watching one drama with Bob McAllister, and they would have a dance off with three kids on three pedestals, and they'd be dancing for a bicycle, and I'm yelling, Mom, you got to get me on this show because I could win that bicycle. These kids are just doing the same step 100 million times when I could like move things around and change it up. So I guess I kind of had it. My sister and I would always mess around with, West Side Story, which is my favorite, you know,
You played Bernardo in West Side Story.
I played him. I played him 4 times, you know,
Amazing.
and I just was so honored to play Bernardo. I mean, talk
What?
about, you know, as an actor, I always think about when I take on roles like, what is my animal? You know, what
Ah,
is the animal of my character? And it's for Bernardo a black stallion, you know,
wow.
and
Wow.
he was just that to me. And ironically, you know, they had a thing about 2 years ago um, at the library, the New York Library here at the Met, and I went. That they had an expose on Jerome Robbins, and I went to the whole West Side Story section, and he's talking about, you know, what the animal is for particular characters. And guess what he said about Bernardo?
Black Stallion?
He's a horse.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
And I
That's
took a picture of it. You know, I have that. I was like, you
incredible.
know, it just made sense to me. You know, yeah. While the Jet Boys were like cleaning their nose with their sleeves, you know,
Yeah.
Bernardo takes out a napkin and, you know, cleans it. You know, it's just that was to me a
Very noble.
Bernardo.
Very noble. Very,
Very noble.
yeah,
Very noble. You know?
elegant, elegant.
Yeah.
Um, so let's talk some more about Small and how that got developed. Um, it's the play based on your original script, correct?
Yep.
And how long did it take to develop? Because I know last year you did it at Penguin Rep upstate in Stony Point, New York, at an old hay barn, renovated hay barn. I wish I'd seen it there too.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's great. Went well.
but I'm sure that's quite a difference from off Broadway. But
Was a perfect setting actually to break in and birth, you know, Small, you know, and Joe
hay,
Brancato.
horses, right?
Yeah, they were so gracious to allow me to do the play there, you know.
Well, the director, I just want to mention, you are the writer and performer. The director is Jesse Hill, and it's produced by 59 East 59th Street Theaters, Penguin Rep Theater, and Cheetah Rivera. So she's got a role in it too.
Yeah, and I had approached Cheetah just after the pandemic. Um, no, I'm sorry, pre-pandemic, pre. And I said, Cheat, you know, you know, we have a long-standing relationship. I've known Cheetah since, you know, 1989,
Wow.
and you know, I was one of her two dancers when she was doing Cheetah Plus Two. You know, and I had approached her and I said, "Listen, I want to do a reading uh, for the industry at the Signature Theater, and I'm raising money to do this. I'm wondering if you would host me, you know." And first of all, when I was raising money, it was not easy. But my friend Rodney Kumasaki, you know, said, you know, here's $10,000. I believe in this play. I believe in you. Go
Wow.
do it. And that was that. And I owe him a lot because, you know, if that didn't happen, Joe Brancato from Penguin wouldn't have seen it. And who
It's
knows
all
where.
it's all like you said, it's like little angels and the spirits and the building blocks of what of a project and your
Yes.
dream, because many of us
Yeah.
have dreams and sometimes they work out and sometimes they don't. But
Yeah. And Cheetah
so
and Cheetah was one of my angels, you know. So when I asked her to host it, she said, "So what is this about? What the play?" And I said, "Well, it's based on a true story. It's autobiographical. When I was a professional racehorse jockey." And she was like, "What?
she
In
had no
all my time I've known you, I've never known that you were a racehorse jockey." And I said, "Well, now's the time for me to really speak about it and pay homage to it, you know, because I took all of my skills and discipline and transferred from the racetrack into dance, you know." So she said, "Okay, so I'll host this for you. You know, I'm happy to do it." So here we are uh, in the dressing room together, and she's sitting across from me, and we're waiting, you know, to for her to go on and introduce me. And she said, "You know, God, here we are. You've been here for me for so many years, and now I'm here to pay it forward. And she said, don't screw up. So she had no idea. So after it was over, she said, I'm in. Whatever I can do to help you get this produced,
So
I'm going to help you, because she said, this is extraordinary. People need to see it because it's not just about the racetrack. It's not about that. You could take my story and use it for anything. It's about dreams and perseverance and working hard and getting to where you want to get to. And if those dreams are broken, where do you go from there? Do you either fold or do you get yourself up and move? And that's what I decided to do. And that's when dance was calling me, in a very, very crazy way. So,
well, it's funny when you said that you pick yourself up. The phrase that everybody knows is "get back in the saddle," right?
yeah, yeah,
So to speak. So that's
absolutely.
what you did.
Absolutely. That is part of my mantra. You know,
Do you
it's
think
like just
is that from your parents, the way you were brought up, or is that, do you think, a personal characteristic that you have?
yeah, that is from my parents. They said, don't ever give up. My father, and it's without me choking up.
What did he do
Uh,
for a living?
my father was an artist, an extraordinary artist.
Really?
And he taught at Pratt Institute for many years. Very
Wow.
respected. Taught at the Art Students League. Taught anatomy at Columbia.
Wow.
I mean, he was, God rest his soul. He is with me, and he is my biggest angel. You know, he
Amazing.
was instrumental to my thinking, and he always used to say to me, Bobby, don't just wish and wonder. Do
Do it.
something about it. Follow your dreams. And I was like, and
And
he's right. And he was right. And then I've always held on. And my mother was like, whatever you do, don't ever give up. Fight. So
wow.
yeah.
And
So I
mother
guess
still alive? Your mother?
yes, she is.
Has she
She
seen the show?
she saw the reading that Cheetah had hosted at
Oh,
Signature, and she
fantastic.
got to see the opening at Penguin Repertory Theater. Yeah,
Oh, fantastic.
yeah, very proud and very proud. Yeah,
So that is a legacy down through the parents, just because if that is instilled in you, there's so many kids out there who don't have that from their parents, and that
yeah,
is an amazing thing to have for yourself. And I have to say for
yeah,
myself as well, it's just an unusual, wonderful thing to have that
yeah.
perseverance handed
I
down.
lucked I lucked out. They gave us structure. I mean, and when we were just kids, we had our duties on the weekends to clean, you know, and
Discipline.
yeah, discipline, and then we get, our 25 cents, what we've negotiated at that time, at that age, in the 60s. So I'm aging myself. Yeah.
No, it's fine. I grew up the same time. Um, so back to your writing and your creative process. I always love to ask writers and creative people, when do you like to write? Do you like to write in the wee hours and before dawn, or in the evening, late, or
Yeah.
anytime you're inspired?
Yeah. The late is good because it's quiet. It's quiet out here on the streets, in New York. I can, when I write, um, I become saturated in those moments. I actually relive it. I feel it. Sometimes I cry. Sometimes I'm laughing. Sometimes I'm angry. I'm just, the moments of reliving those moments. Um, and the wee hours are the best times. I never thought of myself as a writer. I never thought I would write a single thing. Because I had taken off a year after high school, thought I was gonna be this very accomplished jockey. Um, but that didn't happen. So I ended up going to college, at Adelphi. But when I was originally approached by John Jury back in 1993. I was doing Kiss of the Spider Woman on Broadway, and I had been given a leave of absence from the show so I can go do a Jose Rivera play, Cloud Tectonics, beautiful play, at Actors Theater Louisville. And then I did a couple more plays after that, and John Jury, after the second, third time, on my opening night, he said to me, Mr. Montano, you should write a play about your times when you were a jockey, because you seem to pay homage to it in your playbill every time you're here. And I said, yeah, I don't think so. And he said, well, why not? I said, nah, it's not interesting. And he said, well, I think it's interesting. Can I ask you a couple of questions? And I said, sure. How many races did you win? I was like, I was like, John, none. How many races did you ride? I said, you're killing me. 7. And he said, 7. How many races can a jockey ride, in a day? And I said, well, with a good agent, he could ride the whole nine races, And he said, so wait a minute, you said you were riding for 2.5 years, and you rode 7 races within that time? And I said, yeah. And he said, what were you doing in between the races? And I said, losing weight and praying to stay small. And he said,
that's the story.
It's about perseverance. And I said, oh, man. And so I didn't do anything about it. I left it alone. And then I was like, let me just write something. So I wrote a manuscript, and then I handed it to a friend of mine who I worked with, in Kiss of the Spider Woman, prolific writer, and God rest his soul too, Terrence McNally.
Oh yeah, the playwright.
And he said to me, Robert, this is a film. This is so visual. You got to write it as a film. So I was like, okay. And I wrote it as a film, and I called it Under the Wire. But then a friend of mine, who's a big Hollywood director, said to me, you might want to make it more about relationship between, father and you, or mother and you, however you want to do this, but it's, films, we want to root for relationships. And I was like, okay. So I fiddled with that. It actually got optioned twice. But I had in my a clause in my contract that if they went too far away from the story, that I could take it back at no cost.
Excellent.
And both times that happened, and they kept saying, Seabiscuit made this money and that money. I said, it's not about money for me. It's about telling this story,
right.
And I couldn't wake up in the morning, look at myself in the mirror and say to myself, you sold out, So I shelved it. And then when I was doing a play with this director, Jackson Gay, she said to me, can I read your screenplay of Under the Wire? I said, no. And she was like, well, why not? And I said, I shelved it. I'm not, and she said, let me read it. So I gave it to her. She reads it. She wants to meet with me. We meet. She said, I want to propose that you write this as a solo play, you do it, and you let me direct it, and we'll take off with this. I go, no. Oh, she said, why not? And I couldn't answer that for her at the time, because what I was really truly feeling was that I was scared.
The
because
fear.
I was gonna have to expose myself and share these very private, secretive moments,
very personal, such a personal story.
Very personal. So then I, for like 2.5 years, she kept knocking on my door saying, when are you gonna start writing it? When are you gonna start writing it? So I was like, and then one day I decided, you know what?
Just do it.
Right. So I wrote like the first 3 pages, and I go to my computer and I go like, and I hit send. And she's up in Yale, working with Green Day, a new musical, And she read the pages and she called me right away and she said, "This is what I'm talking about. Come up to Yale. Well, write as many pages as you can, and at least get it to 10 pages, and let's get to work. This is right. This is right." So, and I did, and then we would meet and so on and so forth, but then I needed her more than she can give me of her time, and I kind of like shelved it until I went to the Denver Center and I was doing a play there, and they said, "Hey, you wrote something. Why don't you submit it to the Young Playwrights Slam Festival?" And I said, it's not done. It's not finished. I don't have the ending. And they said, "You don't have to have an ending. Just submit it. You may not get in because there's like, I don't know, like 600 submissions and only 6 people that they take. And it's industry based. And the writer has to read the first 10 pages or whatever, for the audience." I was like, all right. So I tried. I send it, and I got in.
I love it.
And I had a bunch of literary agents, handing me send me the script. I want to read the whole thing, and so I was working with someone, and at that point, she said, "Are you married to Jackson Gay directing the play?" And I said, "Well, not at this point, because we came to an understanding that she was very busy, and she needed to put food on the table. She had a kid, and I understood that. So I said, no, I'm fine." She said, "Well, I have somebody by the name of Jessie D. Hill. She specializes in solo plays, and it may not be a cup of tea, but let's see what happens." And I said, "Yeah, okay." 2 days later, I get a phone call. "May I speak to Bobby Montano?" I was like, "Yeah, this is he." And I said, "Yeah, this is Jessie D. Hill." And I said, "Oh, okay." And she said, "Listen, Susan said I can call you directly, that you wouldn't mind, and do you think we could meet?" And I said, "Sure. Can I ask you to do something for me?" And I said, "Sure. Would you read the play for me?" And I said, "Well, I'm not going to do it in a coffee shop, So she came to my apartment. I read it, and she said, "I would love to be a part of this.
Wow.
You would consider me, And I said, "Well, what would you bring to the table?" She said, "Well, this might cost me my possibility here, but," and she told me, and I said, "You're in." And she said, "Really?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "Don't you want to think about it?" I said, "No. What you said rang, and I go by my gut instinct." So
She was drawn to it. Did she have any kind of connection to horses or to
none.
nothing?
And that was the beauty of it, because she said, this is not, it just happens to take place on the racetrack.
Right.
It happens to be that you're striving to be a jockey.
Right.
But that's not the nugget of the whole story.
Right.
That's not it, And she said, you can carry this formula to anything that anyone can do in their life. And I tend to agree. If you have a dream for anything, this is the formula. I believe. So
No, it's a very identifiable topic because so many people are striving. Some people stop, some people give up, some people persevere. What is it that makes you or some people continue on? You got through the bullying, you got through your addiction, you got through the death of your amazing mentor, you got through whatever it was, that all the
yeah,
struggles and the dangers, that too is like amazing that you plowed through all that. And
yeah, it worked out, but I have to say, I mean, even when I was dancing at Adelphi, because Belmont Racetrack is only like a 15-minute drive, to Adelphi University.
right, good choice of
So,
school. Right?
it was like, yeah, and I loved Adelphi, and I still love Adelphi. But I would gallop horses at 4:30 in the morning, and then get to ballet classes by 8. And they would smell. They say, "Oh, Robert is here, you know, I smell the horse manure on his boots, you know, and then I get my ballet slippers, you know, and uh, but you know, invariably, you know, it's never a matter of if you're going to fall and get hurt on a horse. It's when.
Well,
And
I read that one of your rides, maybe your first debut ride, was it Winter Walk? Is that your horse?
yeah, mhm,
You had three cracked ribs.
yeah, yeah,
That's insane. I just can't even imagine going.
yeah. Oh, I was, you know, first of all, I mean, my valet, Cliff Garvey, you know, who used to be Robert Pineda's valet, you
Um,
know, he helped me. So he bound me up, you know, with adhesives, and and I was already pumped up. You know, the doctor was helped me out, if you know what I mean. You know, just to take my pain away. Um,
unbelievable. I mean, did you have to take painkillers? Because that's another problem. You did.
I
So was
did
that
to
part
get
of the?
to get through that day. Yeah,
Uh,
and so and my adrenaline, everything was just so, you know, I was so revved up that I didn't feel anything. You know?
wow.
Yeah.
Was the adrenaline of the riding and the
Yeah.
incredible passion of the riding similar to the passion of being on stage, or is it very different?
It's it's different. It's different. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, you still have that little bit of, you know, what if, you know, is the scene going to go well, you know, whether you're in front of a camera or on the stage, you just don't know, you know. So you still have that thing brewing. The difference is that when you're on a 1,200-pound animal, you're not just dealing with yourself. You're dealing with a whole other mind, you know, because that horse, once you're loaded into that starting gate, I mean, he can go up, down, left, right. You just don't know. You don't know. So you have to pay attention. And yeah, they're very strong animals. And, you know,
And
I have,
could you tell when you were on a certain horse the chemistry between the two of you, or can the
oh,
horse
yeah,
turn on, or you can develop the bond?
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I've had some difficult horses that I had to ride, you know, that were just, you know, you have to figure them out. And it's like anything, whatever job you have, you got to figure out what you need to do in order to make that work, you know. And as a jockey, that's my job, you know. So um, I was never a jockey to be whip happy, you know. I would always feel them with my hands, you know, and I talk about that in the play as well, you know, and feel their mouth, you know, and their energy. It's just you just do, and you just try to figure them out, and then give the best advice, you know, to the trainer uh, to know what to do with them, you know, and
Right,
just
right.
yeah, yeah,
Everybody got. I mean, the trainer is important. The track
yeah.
people are important. The rider, the jockey.
Well, you know, the whole thing is very analogous to show business because you know the jockey is the actor,
Right,
the trainer is the director, the producer is the owner,
right, right.
and the agent is the agent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what about I'd love to hear about the competition between jockeys. Is it more of a team, or is it more it has to be somewhat competitive, but even off the track, or is it fierce competition, or is it more, it seems like there's a camaraderie.
There is camaraderie uh, before you get into the starting gate and after the race is over. But while you're in the race, it's a fierce competition. I mean, two brothers, Irad and Jose Ortiz,
Yes, yes.
are very skillful, accomplished riders. They are really amazing, and it's not of any story. I mean, I've seen other brothers ride, you know, at different racetracks, but these two are extraordinary. But they all bets are off the minute they get into the starting gate.
Yeah.
All bets are off, you know, and they're fierce, jockeys, and they're very, very intuitive and smart. But yeah, after the race and before the race, and God forbid, I mean, God forbid, but they protect each other, but at the same time, they ride to win. Yeah.
That's the killer. That's the key. So
Yep.
another question I have, Robert, is you've worked with so many partners, I guess I would say, on stage, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Cheetah Rivera, and ensembles like Cats and many others. Do you think you prefer working with a partner, or do you love being the solo show, doing them?
Yeah, I mean, every once in a while, in rehearsal, I go like, Jesse, who wrote this? I mean, because, I mean, it's like you're on that stage for 85 minutes, and
Oh,
you know, I actually prefer working with a partner. I do. Um, but
have
at the same,
somebody to work with, right?
yeah, it's like Cheetah was always very, very open about that. She was like, "Don't you guys leave me for too long?" What are you doing, Cheetah plus two? She said, "I have to have my boys. Where am I put my boys?" Uh, yeah, and talk about lessons learned. I mean, she
Oh,
is the queen of Broadway. She's earned that right hands down. I learned from the best. She's taught me, how to work on stage and how to conduct myself off of the stage. She is such a class person. I couldn't have been graced with a better situation. I mean, even me booking my job with her,
but it's not just, again, it's the
angels,
chemistry. I'm sorry.
angels.
Yes, but it's not just that she was great to you, it's that you had the wherewithal to ask for her to help with this
Yeah,
production. It has to go both ways, sort of, and the timing is so crucial too. Catch
yeah,
somebody the wrong mood, the wrong time, the wrong day, the wrong whatever.
yeah, yeah,
But I mean, it shows her solid rock character and her willingness to really want to be there for you the way you were for her.
yeah.
That's a treasure. Um, so, are you still friends with some of the jockeys and some of the racetrack people?
I am. I am. As a matter of fact, Richie Migliori, he's like a brother to me. Richie is no longer racing because he broke his neck and back not once but twice,
Uh,
and now he's a commentator for Fox Sports and the Naira Network. And as a matter of fact, he just emceed uh, my show. I got to do it up in Saratoga. Oh,
oh,
what a
phenomenal.
blessing. As a matter of fact, I have it on back there. I have the paddock on right now in Saratoga.
Oh.
See that. I watch it in the morning because it just brings me peace. Um, but yeah, he emceed, the play up there for Anthony Melfi, who's one of my producers
Uh-huh.
and also a racetrack owner, and
Uh-huh.
he has his whole facility there for the rehabilitation for horses.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes. That's
so
fun.
anyway, so uh, Richie did that for me, and this man has won over 4,500 races. Um,
Unbelievable. I
and he's a
it,
friend of mine. When I was like, Richie, I was a jockey before him, like maybe like 3 or 4 years before him. And he said he used to look at me, when I was riding for Mickey Prego because he was across the other stable. And he said, I remembered you, just your boots were like spit shine clean, and you were dressed, and you would just, and I was like, oh my God. And I said, but Richie,
never
I never race. And Richie's ridden in the Kentucky Derby, the Belmont Stakes, the Triple Crown, the Breeders' Cup. He's won a Breeders' Cup. I mean, this man should be in the Racing Hall of Fame, um, and hopefully Hall of Fame, nominate him because he's worthy.
yeah,
So
well, I mean, I follow the the Belmont and Pimlico and
Yeah, yeah,
the Derby.
yeah,
Someday I want to wear my hat to the Derby, but
yeah.
but I do.
I
I
know, I
follow.
know. Yeah, it gets very crowded there, you know. But
Yeah.
I also want to throw a shout out to also my friend Johnny Velasquez, and he's still riding now. And as a matter of fact, last year, this time, he won 1,000 races at
Wow.
Saratoga, and no jockey has ever won 1,000 races in Saratoga. So, you know, he brought me and my lady, you know, into the winner's circle. And
That's amazing.
yeah, that was really cool. And that was my lady's first experience at the racetrack ever. And now
Really. She's
yeah,
a fan.
and she's a Broadway performer, you know, and she fills in for Roxy every now and then in
Oh,
Chicago, you know.
I love it.
She just
That's,
did dancing too on Broadway, so you know, it's
oh my
amazing.
God.
Diley Scroman, yeah,
That's phenomenal.
yeah,
Oh, well, I'm sure your mom is happy that you did persevere finally against her original wish, right? Because
yeah,
look where this amazing ride took you, right? I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
just such
absolutely,
such a wonderful homage to not just the jockeys and not just the trainers and not just the Broadway producers, but to your parents. You know, that's
yeah,
where it starts, and
yeah, yeah.
it's
Well,
real.
I also want to say one other thing, you know, because there is some extraordinary magic that is on that stage, and you know, Stevie Cawthon, who was the youngest jockey to ever win the Triple Crown, has given me one of his saddles to use in the show.
Oh my gosh!
I said, Stevie,
Wow.
I never want to race. I mean, what do I can't, you know, I said, I'll give it back to you once, you know, I'm done here at Penguin Rep. And he said, no, no, that's for you, you know. So I have his saddle on the stage. I have Robert Pineda's whip, you know, on the
Yes.
stage, you know. I have my friend Willie Belmonte's, you know, two bridles that he used to use, you know, for his horses. I have my friend Jose Rodriguez's stirrups, you know, connected onto Stevie Cawthon's saddle. And Jose used to work for Lucian Lauren, who was a trainer of Secretariat, you know.
Oh my
I have,
God.
you know, I have magic on that stage, and these guys are with me, you know.
So the
And
of those props, which are not just props, they're spirits, like you would say, right?
yeah, and Gary Stevens, you know, who was in the movie of Seabiscuit, you know, he rode Seabiscuit in the movie, you know, for Toby Maguire when Toby broke his leg, you know. And Gary came to see the show in Saratoga, and he said, bro, you said it like it was. You said it like it is, you know, truly, you know, good on you, you know. So I have his blessing too, you know, and a lot of the jockeys and trainers give me their blessing, you know, for
Well,
small.
well, no small feat that you have accomplished here in on stage and in life. Robert Montano, who is starring in his own script of Small at 59 East 59th Street, directed by Jesse Hill. Uh, it's a co-production of 59 East 59 and Penguin Rep and Cheetah Rivera in association with Ted Snowden, Anthony Melfi, and the Flying Carpet Theater Company. And it opens August 14th for a run through September 2nd, 2023. So get yourself down there because Robert Montano is such a special person and incredible to talk to you. Thank you so much, Robert, for joining me on Mia's World.
Thank you,
And
Mia.
absolutely a special day. And now to close out the show, I just have to say that in honor of your dad and my dad, both painters, I have an exhibit at Tavern on Jane Street in the West Village of jazz musician sketches. It's Mia's Jazz Sketches, and it's all sketches done live at jazz clubs, sitting at the bar, 36 pieces. And one of my favorite musicians who's in one of the sketches is Alexia Bontempo, amazing Brazilian singer, songwriter. And so we're going out of the show with Alexia Bontempo singing I'm in Love Again. And we're in love with you, Robert Montano. So thank you for Mia's World.
Thank you.
Thank
You
you,
very
Dave.
much.
Thank you, Robert.
Appreciate it.
All of you.
do. It's a highway that I have traveled through before, so I know all the curves, and I've come back for more. I'm alive again. I can wake up and sing. Nothing bores me now. I enjoy everything. Here I go again, the way that I always do. I'm in love again, all over again with you. I'm alive again. I can wake up and sing. Nothing bores me